Welcome to the Avoid Drowning podcast. With me again is George. He was in the last one. I like to keep it cash. I like to keep it cash in here, which means never making my network bigger or having anyone else in my life.
No new friends. Drake, 2013.
I like to think I am Nathan Drake and you are Victor Sullivan. In this relationship.
Does Sullivan cry a lot? Because that's me.
You haven't been playing any video games.
I hate video games. Video games are for children.
I played one video game.
What?
I'll give you a clue. It kind of relates to the topic of the week, which is video game mascots. Except this isn't a video game mascot, and is he really a mascot? It's Spider-Man.
What?
I was playing Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions.
Tell me about it.
It's like there's 4 of them, and then they have the webs. You love it, man. You not played it?
That sounds like a very in-depth analysis.
It's the concept of this game, Shattered Dimensions, which came out a while ago, is there's the Amazing Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2099, and Spider-Man Noir. Because in comics, there's always like tons of different versions of all the characters, so they can sell action figures. But each of them has a different gameplay style, and they're in separate levels. So Spider-Man Noir does sort of stealth stuff, sort of like Batman, Arkham Asylum stuff. And the same people that made Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions also went on to make the Amazing Spider-Man video game based on the film. And there's a new Amazing Spider-Man 2 game that's just come out, and it has actual webs.
What? It has actual webs?
No moon webs. This one, apparently, from what I've heard of the reviews, the game itself is terrible. But this time they've actually gone back to make, actual web slinging you need to attach to an actual building.
Holy shit, that's revolutionary.
Because we both fondly remember, I know you like this, Spider-Man 2.
I'm a big fan of that. That's my shit.
Did you play Ultimate Spider-Man as well?
I never played that. I played Spider-Man 2. I played the first Spider-Man.
It was basically the same as Spider-Man 2, but like cel-shaded.
So, relating it to this week's theme, which is video game mascots.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
The entire
mascot.
Adam's article was about whether video game mascots are real, essentially.
What, do they actually exist in the world?
It was about the Wii Fit character and whether that is a real character. So, what do you define by a real character? And is Spider-Man a real character?
Well, coming from someone who studies fiction,
what is that? Is that your fiction voice?
Yeah, it's my academic voice. Well, I think because video games started in arcades in the 80s, and video game characters have such a prevalence toward always existing. Mario's been since forever. That when they're initially made, they don't really have much character because they were arcade games. And then I think the tendency is Sonic. I hate to bring it back to Sonic. But I think Sonic.
You've got
Sonic is a prime example of when character isn't necessarily good for video games, because Sonic starting out, he's got kind of a bit of an attitude, but it's just a kind of an arcadey platformer game, and then they put all this 90s sort of chewed into it, like attitude. He's skateboarding around, eating chili dogs and stuff, and Nintendo never did that for Mario. Mario is just always sort of a Sonic protagonist doing his jumping.
So are you saying Mario is a better character than Sonic because
Sonic's not really cool anymore?
Sonic was developed for a certain time period, and he is a product of the 90s, whereas Mario is a kind of like a. I think because Mario is kind of
characterless,
that
really works in his favor.
Essentially, he's just a plumber. That's his entire thing. Whereas Sonic's a hedgehog, but he has all this personality based around the 1990s.
Yeah, some people really hate Sonic the Hedgehog as a character because they think, well, Sonic's just an asshole.
He's like the personification of a 90s kid. That's what he is.
Sonic kind of is an asshole.
That's the entire, yeah.
He's like, you're too slow.
That's why
no one likes that.
I never got into Sonic because I was just like, why? I didn't get it. He's just a hedgehog.
Well, there was that bit where, you ever play Sonic Adventure 2?
Why would I?
There's a bit at the very beginning. He's in a helicopter. He's been captured by the government because they had his story and everything in, which is great.
Why were the government looking for a hedgehog?
Well, that's because there's another hedgehog that escaped, and then
what, from a run?
No, from like a rabbit run? Government facility.
Why were the government looking after hedgehogs? Have they got like their own petting zoo? You can't pet hedgehogs, man.
We should probably get into this another time because I imagine it could be quite fun to discuss the entire plot of Sonic Adventure 2 with you.
It sounds ridiculous.
But Sonic's in a plane, and he like
he's a hedgehog in a plane.
Oh, it's a helicopter.
Carry on.
And he kicks. This is how we're introduced to Sonic in this game. He kicks down the door.
Not strong enough.
And he's like, this is a terrible flight. Anyway, no food or movies.
Hedgehogs
I'm out of
speak.
here. And he like grabs a bit of the plane or whatever, and he jumps off, and then he uses it like a board, and he starts spinning through the air.
Hedgehogs can't do that.
City Escape, the title of the level, comes in. It loads. He drops down from the sky.
It would die.
Lands on the San Francisco-esque streets. Starts boarding down it. And that's Sonic in a nutshell. Mario wouldn't do that. Mario's just like, oh, it's a princess. Let's go.
Yeah. So does that, in your eyes, make Sonic a weaker character because he's literally just ridiculous?
It makes Sonic more of a character and a weaker character. I think
Sonic is too kind of defined. I'd say he's too much of a personality.
He's too defined, and they keep trying to make him something that he's not.
Yeah, and it's
because
they're
constantly trying to, reinvigorate Sonic and stuff, but they don't need to do that with Mario because what's there to reinvigorate?
He's literally just an empty shell, which they can put him in different things.
Luigi's good though.
So speaking as someone who creates stories and is a writer, I use that in the least weakest possible term.
I've been published.
Would you prefer to write a character that was an empty shell so you could put them in multiple situations, or would you prefer to write a very character-driven?
Well, I think it's difficult when you're talking about mascots because mascots, by their very nature, have to be somewhat timeless, and to be somewhat timeless, you need a sort of vagueness to it.
Sure.
I think there's a place for video game characters that are more, full of character and stuff, but I'm not sure that's necessarily where mascots lie. Sure. And I think a lot of characters in, say, Super Smash Brothers, which is what the article's about, are mascots.
Yeah.
There's not really much to it there.
I remember being a big kind of like a debate when I was a kid, and there was like Sonic versus Mario. Sega had Sonic as a mascot. Nintendo had Mario. And then there was a big thing because like PlayStation never had a mascot. Because I believe that was like...
It had that weird face guy for like a month.
I don't even know what that is. But like PlayStation always had more story.
Actually,
games.
in Japan they had a mascot, but they never really used him here. He's like a little cat.
Really?
Yeah.
But
he's in PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale,
really?
Also known as Terrible Smash Brothers. Don't play it.
But yeah, I feel like... So what's your opinion on mascots? Do you think they're a good thing for the brand, or do you think they're just there to kind of sell more copies? Or
you're asking me some very difficult questions.
Well, man, I want to get deep.
The thing is, I think from a company perspective, from a business perspective, it's useful to have something that people can identify easily with your shit. I mean, mascots aren't just from video games. Obviously, they're you've got the pizza guy.
There is no pizza guy.
There's a pizza guy.
Why don't you go with Burger King?
Yeah, you got the Burger King or the Ronald McDonald and stuff. It's easy. It's good to have something that people can easily associate with it. And if you have sort of a mascot with some sort of character, like a loose character, then you can do stuff like advertising stuff or appeal to children.
I feel like with the use of mascots, though, you kind of stick your brand in a specific kind of frame, and it makes it hard to move. Because recently McDonald's redesigned their Ronald McDonald character, and all they did was just put him in a jumpsuit. That's the only redesign. And I feel like McDonald's are trying to like appeal to a different audience now than they were 20 years ago, which was like solely children.
Well, I guess it's... Yeah.
And I think like the entire idea of a mascot has kind of like forced them into this role as a children's food company.
Yeah, I guess.
They're finding it very hard to get out of that. So, like,
didn't they have a marketing campaign recently where they were like, "Oh, McDonald's restaurant"?
Yeah, remember they like redesigned their entire kind of brand to make it like green, look more adult. Where
with the deli range.
So, like, maybe Nintendo have that problem where they've stuck themselves into this children's only kind of mascot.
Yeah, they are seen as
they're seen as a children's company, and I think that's because of Mario and their mascots. Where with Sony have a flexible kind of persona.
What about Lara Croft? She's a mascot, isn't she? But she's sort of more, I say adult, she probably mainly appealed to sort of teens.
Is she a mascot, though? Or is she just a strong character?
I think for a time,
character?
A lot of people probably associated her with PlayStation and stuff. But definitely I'm blanking on the company that made Tomb Raider. Definite core design, I think. definitely a mascot for them. Just like Crash Bandicoot, definitely a mascot for Naughty Dog, or was.
Sure.
Spyro, that's Insomniac. Sly Raccoon.
Yeah, I feel like Sony is more of and PlayStation are kind of more open brands where they.
I think it's because PlayStation has always had like a big thing with having third parties make their games, whereas stuff like Nintendo is primarily first party, especially now in the Wii U.
Yeah.
With a lot of third party support being lost, especially that of EA. Not that that's a bad thing.
Yes, yeah. I feel like their images are much different, and I think that's largely due to the whole mascot thing.
Then what would you say about Xbox? They don't really
They've
have.
got like Halo.
They've got Halo
franchises.
and Gears of War. They're both adult orientated things, but even then, I don't associate much with Xbox.
Well, the entire when I think Xbox, I think green. That's the entire kind of. I
Master
associate
Chief,
the color green with
Gears of War,
Xbox.
muddy brown,
but
kind
yeah,
of moss green.
Yeah, I don't really associate characters with it. So I feel like PlayStation Open it's because they don't enforce mascots, where Nintendo are very first party, and they kind of push their mascots. So I feel like mascots have a very big place to play
In some ways,
marketing.
In some ways, do you think some elements of mascotism has now make it sound like a political movement? Do you think that's quite closely rooted with the indie scene, perhaps? Because you have was Fat Princess indie?
It was
she's in PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale, and you have stuff like Super Meat Boy or Explosion Man.
Sure.
I feel like indie games kind of draw from that sort of that retro sort of classic mascotism, and I think especially last generation, Microsoft were notoriously difficult to work with for indie developers.
Sure. I feel like that kind of goes because we were just saying that maybe there's two types of mascotism. There's Sony mascotism where there's lots of mascots, and they're the mascots of individual developers.
Bubsy.
Yeah, and then you've got Nintendo mascotism, where they're literally Nintendo mascots. So I feel like the entire indie mascot scene is more to do with the Sony mascot scene.
Yeah, and it's interesting with some of the indie mascot stuff, because largely they're not that much like mascots. I mean, Super Meat Boy is kind of mascotty, but he's not like an actual mascot. They don't really use him that much, and he's only had one game. Well, if you count the Flash one, 2, I suppose. And they're also doing a remake of it. But
and he's recognizable as well.
I think it's the way he's designed is to be like a mascot.
Yeah.
So I guess when it comes down to it, what is a mascot?
Is it just what is it? Is it just the character?
I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm gonna have to look up the actual definition.
Well, I feel like it's a character that represents a brand, I would say.
Easily identifiable with a certain thing, I would say. A person or thing that is supposed to bring good luck, especially one linked to a particular organization or event.
That's not relevant at all.
Well, linked to a particular organization
Find a
or
different
event.
definition, one that goes with what I said.
Late 19th century from French mascotte, meaning witch. What? Okay. I guess that's the link to the luck section of that.
So,
I wanted to. Do you want to continue talking about that, or
I feel like we've got all we can out of it.
Okay, I have a little game I wanted to play on the show.
Okay, hit me.
I wanted to. I don't know if this will be good. But I have a list of some video game mascots, and I'm gonna name them to you and see if you can link them with the company they're associated with.
Go.
Start out easy. Solid Snake.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Come on, man. Play the game.
Wait, what am I doing?
You name the company associated with Solid Snake.
So would I say Konami or would I say Sony?
Konami.
Konami.
But you can say Sony too, I suppose.
I would associate that with
because
Sony.
when Metal Gear came out, it was obviously closely associated with Sony because it came out for PlayStation 1. Rayman.
Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know that one. I feel like because that's an old mascot, I would say, and I feel like that's not relevant anymore.
He did kind of disappear for a while.
He's dead. Rayman's dead to everyone.
This one's Ezio Auditore de Firenze.
Oh, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Come on.
I don't know the company that makes. Is it Ubisoft?
Yeah, it's Ubisoft.
But I feel like these are characters, and I don't think they're mascots.
This list says it. I think it's interesting in a way because Rayman was for Ubisoft, and now people would obviously associate Ezio more with it.
Yeah, but
Do you think they're missing a trick with Assassin's Creed because they had that whole Ezio trilogy thing, and now it's just different people. Connor, especially in Assassin's Creed 3, which you like and I don't like. He had no personality at all. He was basically blank, and I think they were missing a lot by moving away from the sort of the fun mascotism. We're just using that word now. That's just the thing.
I feel like
the fun mascotism of Ezio, and then just moving to Connor, who doesn't really represent anything or is hard to associate with anything.
I think you do need to separate character from mascot, and I think maybe I don't think Rayman is a mascot. Essentially, he's just a character. Where I feel like a mascot is a character that personifies.
It's a very
brand.
90s thing.
Yeah. I feel like it needs to personify a brand. I don't think Rayman personifies the brand of Ubisoft.
Okay, Jack and Daxter.
Oh, I can't remember that. That was Naughty Dog, wasn't it?
Yeah, but here
now
it just
Naughty
says
Dog
Sony.
are moving into like a mature territory with The Last of Us. And
Would you call Jack and Dax the mascots?
Not anymore, because I don't think they personify the brand of.
But
Naughty
when
Dog.
Jack and Daxter Jack 3
Perhaps,
came out,
because
you
that
would
was
call
when they
them
were
a
making
mascot.
Ratchet and Clank too, and I feel like that was when they were fun.
But
kid
would
games.
you ever call Nathan Drake a mascot? In a sense,
Now,
he is.
Now I think so, because he represents their mature thing they're going for.
Okay. You might not like this segment, but I think we're actually gaining a lot from it. Banjo-Kazooie.
I don't even know who made that. Was it Rare?
Yeah. Pac-Man.
Namco.
Okay, you got that. That's good.
What up?
Scorpion.
I don't even know what that is. Is that Sonic the Hedgehog?
No, it's
Scorpion
a
form?
Mortal Kombat character.
Oh, yeah.
But can you name the actual studio that makes it? I feel like if you can't, then they're somewhat failing as a mascot.
Yeah, sure. Maybe mascots need to be associated with big companies. You cannot associate a small
Mega Man.
Capcom.
No, you got that one.
What up? Expert over here, bro.
Pikachu?
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Well, you know it's Nintendo, but
Is it?
can you
I can't remember.
can you associate it with the actual studio?
Oh, Game Freak.
Oh, good. Kirby.
Are you going to do every single one on this list?
Nah, just picking the ones.
Because that's Sonic the Hedgehog.
What about
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Gordon Freeman?
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Shell.
Well, I feel like
GLaDOS.
maybe Gordon Freeman doesn't just personify Half-Life and Valve, but it personifies... Well, I think it personifies Valve in its entire operations.
How do you mean? What? Because it's silent, just watching.
It's always there. But I feel like Gordon Freeman is a mascot for Valve. Because that is their only game, really, isn't it?
Wow, there's Portal.
Yeah, but I don't think Shell is a mascot. Maybe GLaDOS
No,
is.
Shell definitely isn't a mascot.
Maybe GLaDOS is.
Yeah, GLaDOS. She's probably. I mean, you just think of her inclusion in Poker Night at the Inventory 2.
Sure.
That Telltale poker game.
So what...
In fact, those games are pretty good because they're all based around sort of quote-unquote mascots.
Sure.
Gammering around, having banter, playing poker.
So what can we conclude from this? What is a mascot?
I don't know. I feel like instead of reaching any conclusions,
We've just made it worse.
we've just brought up a lot of
That's
questions
philosophy, man.
for ourselves. What's your favorite mascot?
My favorite mascot?
Do you want another drink?
No, I'm good.
Let's get a bit more personal with it,
I
because
don't
then
know,
we can
man.
actually talk about stuff we know. I even lowered my seat
What's your
for this.
favorite mascot? Because I have no idea.
Some.
Is it Sonic the Hedgehog?
No, it's not.
Is it Sonic the Hedgehog?
Shut up. No one can ever know.
Is it Sonic? It's Sonic the Hedgehog.
I really go for like a lot of mascots, man.
You don't go for mascots.
I go for them. I love them.
So name a couple of mascots. Come
Well,
on, man.
you had a play at PS2. Don't you just love Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter, Sly Raccoon? I love them.
Sure.
I don't think there's enough of them these days.
You don't think there's enough mascots?
No.
Then why do you think that? Is it because there's not enough strong characters anymore? Or
I don't know.
do you just not feel connected to brands anymore?
I mean, I do agree with what you were saying earlier about there being a close association with maybe more sort of a child-friendly, more sort of fun product. And they don't really do many of those sort of just sort of 3D platformer, cartoony stuff these days.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't call... who's the
of Us
Last
is a
of Us
fun,
guy?
platform.
Yeah, there's no mascots in that. It's just people doing dark people shit. I love that.
So
I love it, but
maybe games have become less character driven and more story driven.
maybe. But I think in some ways, like games like The Last of Us and other games that try to do story. I say try because I was just thinking of David Cage. Those are more character driven, but they're less mascotty.
Cause you've got to define.
Ratchet and Clank's great, and they have characters, but they're not really character driven. They're just sort of goofy, fun characters.
Yeah,
and you can't make a mascot out of an actual person. I don't think. Nathan Drake's sort of mascotty, but at the same time, he's not that much of a character. He just goes around shooting people, making quips, and I love it. 10 out of 10.
Maybe that is a character though.
But then you
he's
have
a character, but not a mascot.
Yeah, well, I feel like in some ways he's kind of mascotty because there's not that much to him. He just kind of runs around collecting treasure.
Define what you think the difference is between mascot and character.
I think you need a series to be a mascot.
Sure.
And I think these questions are hard.
Well, this is the point, man. You gotta get deep.
I think a mascot has a degree of sort of unchangeability to it. Sonic will always be running around collecting rings, no matter what you do to it. Mario will always be jumping around collecting coins. Nathan Drake will always be rolling around shooting people collecting treasure.
So it's all about doing things and collecting things.
I think so, on some level, yeah. A lot of the mascots come from those sort of we go around in circles, but I love it. I thought you liked the sort of PS2 mascot stuff, like Sly Raccoon and Jack and Daxter.
Yeah.
That's the height of it for me, I think.
Yeah, I think.
And PS1, probably Spyro, Crash.
Yeah, but
Croc.
I don't know if they're. I don't know if I would define them as mascots.
They gotta be. If it's in PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale, gotta be a mascot.
Is that just?
If you can be defined as an All Star,
yeah,
I think on some level that might be true.
If you're an All Star or a Smash
to
Bro.
be in PlayStation All Star, you need a degree of recognizability, which is key to being a mascot. Yeah. So there's very inclusion in it. If they're in Super Smash Brothers or PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale, that's not what makes them a mascot, but that's a good way to tell.
A test, yeah. So they're recognizable essentially.
Yeah, you look at it and you go, oh look, it's Kratos. Oh look, it's the Big Daddy.
Yeah.
Oh look, it's Fat Princess. They even had Thingy from Medieval. PS1 game.
Yeah, sure.
You didn't play it, did you?
I did. I played the demo. What up?
That's a good demo. Love that demo.
So, would you say the age of mascots is over?
Yeah.
You said that very wistfully.
Well, there's that new Pac-Man game, I guess.
Oh yeah, that is.
I almost want to get that just to try and relive those glory days.
Yeah, it'll never happen, man.
It's a cartoony platformer. You run around as Pac-Man. Love it. 10 out of 10.
That sounds.
That's probably why I bought that awful Pirates of the Caribbean game.
Because you just love running around collecting things.
Captain Jack Sparrow is very much a mascot.
A mascot for what though? Disney or just Pirates?
The Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, I suppose. That's all based around him. He's a mascot character. Can
you apply it to other forms of media? Are there mascots for other forms of media, like books or films?
James Bond?
Is he a mascot or is
I don't know. He doesn't necessarily represent one company, does he?
No. I feel like mascots have to be company based. Like you have to relate them to a company.
Didn't it say organization or product in this definition?
Sure.
Or event.
Yeah.
So
it has to be related to an organization. It can't just be a character.
What about the James Bond series? James Bond being the mascot?
Is that an organization?
So dumb when I say it like that.
Yeah, I would just say that was a character. I don't.
Maybe we should really be talking about key characters.
Okay, hit me.
I don't know. Batman. 10 out of 10. Love it.
Hit me.
Capes. Grant Morrison. He writes. You ever seen Batman before?
I've never even heard of Batman.
He has a symbol on his chest. Do you know what it is of?
Is it a bat?
Yes. I think that's great. But he is also a symbol, incorruptible. He can exist beyond the man.
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? You never see Batman Begins?
I don't know what that means.
Have you never been? You never danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Only once.
It's a reference to a film.
Way to go. That's not a very mascot line. I didn't recognize it. Didn't associate with the brand.
Yeah, it was like in the Tim Burton film. That's basically what the guy says just before he kills Bruce Wayne's parents, and then Joker says it later on, and it's like, oh yeah, it's the same. It was him.
Way to go!
So in some sense, he was a real life mascot for killing parents. There was a degree of recognizability there with the catchphrase.
So
let's
when
talk
I
about
think killing parents. I think that guy.
Let's move on a little bit from mascotism then, and talk about business stuff in general. Catchphrases. Love it. EA Games.
It's in the game.
What's the sport one that they do?
It's in the game.
What's the other one then?
It's in the game.
They got two, haven't they?
Isn't it just like, kill your parents? And what is one of them?
Oh, challenge everything.
Oh yeah, do they still do that?
EA Games.
Challenge everything. Kill your parents.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
EA Sports.
I can't think of any other catchphrases for things. That's probably why EA is so successful and evil.
Because they're so wide and unspecific.
Again, I feel like that's a thing of the 90s. I don't even really see that ad thing they do much these days,
No,
the EA Games thing. And in the 90s, there was stuff like, Sega does what Nintendo don't.
There's no like.
No one cares
anymore.
anymore.
Nobody's fighting.
Is it because the markets are so closed?
Maybe. I feel like, maybe if Sony shits on Microsoft, then they're kind of hurting.
When
themselves.
Xbox One came out, the people in doing Xbox business stuff were just like, yeah, people will buy it. No one really put any effort into them.
Nobody cares.
The
anymore.
marketing
I think it's
of
because we've all grown up and we've realized, like, hey, video games are just dumb.
People were like,
we all hate.
They were like, yeah,
games
people
now.
will buy an Xbox.
Yeah.
Are they games for Titanfall? I don't know.
Everything sucks. That's all I've realized. That's all I've learned. Mascots are dead. Characters are here. Story things are now. That's my conclusion.
This feels very bleak.
Well, sounds like the perfect time to end the podcast because I'm about to kill myself.
We need to bring it up, we need to at least hit 40.
Well, I'm dead. That's a benefit.
I've been buying a lot lately.
Of what?
A bit, like
hard drugs.
HD collections of the old mascot games.
Drugs.
And I keep buying these new games. I don't know what the games are about. I haven't played them because, I buy them and I don't play them. But then I get these like HD ones of old games I used to play, like Jack and Dexter stuff. I just play those. Why can't I let go?
Are you trying to desperately cling to the memories of your childhood?
Is that it?
I feel like it is.
What do people have? What do people growing up in today's gaming world have for that? I mean, Halo Anniversary came out, I guess. It's not really the same.
Yeah, I feel like mascots were a thing of the 90s, and I feel like there's no identifiable things anymore. And who do people have to grab onto now? Like, there's just franchises. There's like Call of Duty, and that doesn't have a mascot.
I guess maybe you could say that the big AAA games are becoming so sort of annualized and franchised themselves. They don't need their own mascots or anything.
Sure.
They just have. It's not like, ooh, Lara Croft's back in a new adventure. It's just like, yeah, you like Call of Duty? Here's a new one.
Yeah.
You haven't heard of Call of Duty? Are you dead?
So would you say that was just because of like laziness, or do you think that's the easiest way to make money?
I guess I don't know.
Do you think it's just unnecessary to make mascots
Assassin's
now?
Creed is, outside of Ezio.
Maybe
they don't need that. They
maybe
just need the Assassin's Creed name.
I'm thinking maybe mascots were needed in the 90s because mainstream gaming was new, and they needed something to draw people from outside.
And there were so
gaming
many
in.
more games.
And nowadays, everything's just kind of people know about video games now. They're like one of the biggest.
Yeah, there was less
mediums.
hardcore
you don't
marketing back then.
You don't need strong identities because people already know about things, and they can just go straight into it.
Yeah, I guess in the 90s and stuff, you would go to like a game shop and you'd look at the rack of games that they had, and you wouldn't really know about them.
No.
And you only would have enough for like one game.
Mm.
So you'd look at the boxes and you'd be like, well, which should I pick up? And you see like Crash's smiley grin.
With
You're
his
like,
yo-yo.
I think I've heard of this Crash guy before.
Yeah.
Let's get Crash 2.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
You don't need that these days. There's not even enough games that are out that are sort of AAA or anything for there to even be much competition. It's not like people are going to be like, oh, should I get Call of Duty or Medal of Honor?
Yeah.
No one does that. It's just, I want the Call of Duty game. It's there. Let's get it. Put it in the basket.
Yeah. But
Go
I'm
check
thinking
it out.
maybe we're just thinking about this because we've moved on from we've personally moved on from mascots. Maybe if we ask the kid now, should we just bring a kid in and ask?
Hello, sir.
Are you a child?
Oh, yes.
Why are you from the 1980s, like London?
I came through a time portal. It's all very confusing.
Do you know about chimney sweeping?
I know about mascots. I love Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes is dead.
I love other characters from the pulps. I read the Strand magazine despite being illiterate. I look at the pictures. I love them. Anyway.
But maybe children, maybe like if you ask the child, maybe they do have brands and mascots
Kratos
they
was in
identify with.
PlayStation All Stars.
Yeah, but that's not a child thing, is it? Maybe
It's a teen thing.
Spyro is still a character, and like they've got that entire franchise still going now with children supporting.
Skylanders. Oh yeah, that is.
And is that mascot driven? I guess so.
I guess so. You have all the figures. It's like the Disney Infinity thing.
So
as well.
maybe we just don't recognize mascots anymore, and we've personally moved on from that. But kids might still recognize mascots.
But in games,
Um,
you know, when was the last good Hello Kitty game?
now every Hello Kitty game is good.
It's been bad since Roller Rescue, and you know it.
Just ask
Roller
Avril
Rescue
Lavigne.
was the peak of the series.
Went
You know,
down
now
after
you
that now.
Google Hello Kitty, it says Avril Lavigne songs. I don't want that. I can't play an
ask a
Avril Lavigne
child.
song. Well,
Yeah. So maybe we're just ignoring mascots. Maybe they are still
I don't know. I
prevalent.
do keep an eye out for cartoony kid games for my own reasons. I don't really see them. Yeah, besides God of War or whatever. Whatever is a franchise, I guess, has a recognizable thing.
Sure. Is like Adventure Time? Is that a mascot for children? Are those mascots?
You get all the bags and stuff. I don't know if it's a mascot, but it's a franchise. Let's
Sure.
just talk about franchises now.
Oh, fine.
Let's just,
McDonald's franchise.
they have games, but those are terrible, apparently.
I played some of them.
Yeah, it's only really Nintendo that does it.
Yeah. Nintendo are still
Even
at it.
sort of third-party Nintendo games like Professor Layton, Phoenix Wright.
Maybe that's what's frozen them in time, and maybe that's why people still think of them as a child's company.
But everyone loves Nintendo as well.
Do they love Nintendo? I
Who
haven't played a
doesn't love
game in
Nintendo?
months.
Yeah, but you still
Years.
love them in your heart.
Not really.
Oh, man.
I feel like they're just frozen in time and they're stuck. And it's because they focus.
3DS is doing very well.
They don't focus on new projects anymore. They're not they just rehash the same old things.
Well, Super Mario 3D World was a bit different.
Was it? It was a
Yeah.
man jumping around collecting things.
Well, yeah, I guess they do need to try some new stuff.
I feel like they need to just scrap all of their old things.
Oh, gosh.
Rebrand themselves as just an edgy teen company.
They should call themselves No Nintendo.
They should take the old thing and be like Nintendo and make that their new logo.
It'll be interesting to see what they do in the future because I'm sure sooner or later they will have to shake things
But
up.
I feel like we were
Especially
saying
with
that
the
5
Wii U
years ago.
stuff.
I feel like back in like 2008 we were like.
I think 5 years
maybe
ago
now
I was
they're
saying
gonna start
stuff like,
something new.
oh yeah, I love Radiohead.
But yeah, I don't think they're ever going to move on. I think they're just stuck
Are they?
and they're suffering for it.
Well, E3 is around the corner and they have some exciting things.
Oh, what, like a new Smash Bros? New franchise?
Yes, Governor.
Oh god, you need to go back in the time portal.
No, they've got to have some stuff up their sleeve.
But do they though? We've said that for ages and they haven't done anything new. Name
Yeah.
something new that Nintendo's done.
There's gotta be a new Zelda.
Oh, that's new.
I'm
saying Nintendo are dead. I'm predicting it. 5 years time.
You have a 3DS
Nintendo
though, don't
exists.
you ever play that? There's loads of games for it. I'm getting
I
games left and right
haven't played a
center.
game for it in ages.
What about like what if they announce a new? There's gonna be a new Mario, and he's gonna be jumping and getting coins.
God bless.
2.
That should be the title of the game. Mario jumps around and collects things.
Super Mario 3D World 2. Love it. Box it, put it in a crate, send it to Donkey Kong. Funky Kong the game.
So, to conclude.
I really want to defend Nintendo from what you're saying.
You literally can't.
My
argument is flawless.
But I think, there are other companies with interesting new stuff. Maybe not for Wii U, but for 3DS, I think there's some stuff.
Like
Rhythm Thief.
Oh, a rhythm action game. Good.
I love it. 10 out of 10.
That's a new concept.
Professor Layton.
That's a new concept.
Well, what about other consoles? What about other consoles, though? They're not trying new stuff. Sony indie games that try anything new.
Sony are doing an Oculus Rift ripoff. That's new.
Yeah, great. New Batman,
Nintendo
Arkham Knight.
Virtual Boy. So
Arkham Knight is going to be the same as the other Arkham one.
Yep. Nothing's new anymore. I feel like we've just reached the end.
We were talking about TV earlier as well. I was saying I was looking through the Radio Times, and there's like nothing new on.
Do you think
it's all just
media
repeats.
is over? Do you think we've just reached the end of media? We've done it all. That's it. There's nothing new. Do you think everyone just stopped being creative now?
I think you've broken me.
Like, what's new? Nothing's new anymore.
Hold on, I'll think of something.
Is it just going to be a Nintendo title?
I don't know. I was trying to think of like films and stuff, but I'm all just going to see Marvel films.
Exactly, and they're just based.
Those are all characters from the 40s.
Exactly. Is anything new? I think we've just reached the end.
Why are you being so negative? I thought
Because
we would have a nice, fun podcast talking about all the little cartoon games we loved.
It's over, man. Just wrap it up. It's over.
No, there's new stuff.
Oh, really? Hit me. I know this is incredibly negative, but I'm just saying this is the end of society as we know it.
There's no, that's based on something else. No, but there's True Detective.
Do you think we're due another renaissance?
What, revival of the classics? All we're doing is reviving classics over and over again.
But like a new renaissance.
I don't understand what you mean.
But like the opposite of renaissance.
What we need is a new Dark Age.
I feel like we've made. Oh yeah, maybe.
So we can forget everything and then start again.
That's a good point. Maybe we've just been.
Because then we would be rehashing stuff, but like we wouldn't know it.
So maybe in like another 500 years, we'll have something new.
I'll tell you something new that happened.
Go. Is it a new Sonic game?
I was playing those. They're called these games by level 5. Like each one is it's for 3DS. They're all download titles. They're released in Japan as the Guild. Each one is like a well-known Japanese sort of game developer, sort of trying something sort of slightly gimmicky and slightly new, but quite small scaled down. How about that? Love them.
So are you kind of suggesting that indie games maybe are the new future?
It's the only way.
So we're moving away. So you think we're going to move away from kind of big, like AAA titles?
Well, AAA titles can't really
innovate.
Well, they can't really.
They're stuck in their kind of.
The financing is there to. They have to make their money back because they're spending so much that they have to hit what works.
So maybe the hope is that new titles and new ideas can come from the indie scene with like with low financing.
I think you need more emphasis on things like writers and sort of auteurs. I don't know what that word means.
So are you saying that
we need more Kojimas? We need more the Swery 65s. That's the Deadly Premonition guy. We need more, Suda 51s and all the other people that are in the guild and stuff like that. I think it's a lot more prevalent in Japan, that sort of personality. This is a guy doing stuff. Yeah. I mean, we got Ken Levine, but look what happened to him.
He's dead. Rest in peace.
His studio shut down, didn't it? But now he's moving on to other stuff.
So
even though I'm not necessarily a big fan of Peter Molyneux's, what he's done since he left Fable and stuff, just look at what Fable 3 was. You play Fable 3?
No.
It's like such a dilution of everything that made Fable good into just the most predictable, bland mush of a game. So I think it's good that he left to be able to do stuff that he just wants to do. I think being able to just do what you want to do will eventually lead to some sort of creativity, even if it's just an amalgamation of lots of different elements from different things.
So what you're saying is that kind of
don't go sterile.
Creativity has died because they're kind of farming things out just because they know what works and they know it's going to make money. But You saying that we're kind of moving into a new age, and what we need is more creatives focused on what they want to do and what.
I think we're moving into a space of video games where that can be done, and it can be done in a way that can be reasonably successful. People can make money from it with the small teams. And with Steam distribution and stuff, I mean, they're closing Greenlight, but they're making it more open and allowing people to have like their own store page stuff on their own websites and stuff.
So
that links
are you
directly
saying
in.
video games are saved? Are you saying the revolution's here?
I'm saying I don't.
Are you saying the revolution's here?
I mean, look at Xbox One and PS4. I mean, what games are there for it?
There's
it's all just franchise stuff that's also available on. That's also available on other, formats like 360 or PS3. So you need, they're not doing that great. I don't think people are that happy with their Xbox One purchases or whatever.
No.
And a lot of people say, with PS4 and stuff, the best games are sort of the indie games that are available for it. So I don't think there's that much.
Should we conclude? What do you think of this entire kind of, what is your opinion on Mascots? Do you think Mascots are over? And do you think we're
I think Mascots
into this new? And do you think Mascots are replacing the new kind of paradigm of indie gaming?
I think Mascots are sort of don't exist much. I think Mascots are sort of giving way to just sort of generalized franchises for AAA gaming. I don't think AAA gaming really has much of a future in a sort of creative way.
I don't think Mascots have any place in
I'm saying AAA gaming does have a future, but not for sort of creativity or really much original content.
And I think people are going to get bored of that.
I don't think they will though, because how many people watch Storage Hunters every day?
Well, that's because it's the greatest show ever, and I'd appreciate if you back down. But
sometimes you need something that's just easy. It does what it is, and it is what it does.
But people are already kind of bored of that kind of.
Well, we are, but that's because I suppose we're more in the scene of it.
Sure.
Some people just have, they have like their TV package and they just watch the sports or whatever. In the same way they have an Xbox One, and they'll buy each Call of Duty or Titanfall or whatever.
Sure.
And that'll be what they do. Sometimes they'll play online multiplayer, and then they'll go and have a pizza.
But there's kind of a bubbling underneath where there is creativity coming through.
It's the same people that are probably interested in like Netflix original shows and House of Cards or things like that. People are going to want that stuff, but it needs to be. You need to create an environment where that stuff can flourish, and where that stuff can exist and be consumed, and create a good environment for that.
I feel you. I feel like we've reached a very deep point in this.
I think I managed to twist that round and make it hopeful.
I think, yeah. Give us a speech. That was a speech.
When I was a young boy playing Sonic 2.
This is just to wrap up. Get your
Chemical Plant Zone. You know it. You all know what I'm talking about. You love it. Purple water. Don't go in that. It's poisonous. And you fall down and you drown. Anyway, that's been the.
I thought that was going to be a speech.
That's been the podcast.
Video games are dead.
Or are they?
Who knows?
Yeah, I think we covered. We covered a few. We covered one topic at great length, and we went down, but then we came back up again like a reverse roller coaster.
So, are you saying that we
went
into the water, and we stayed there for a while, then we came back up?
Yes.
Are you saying
thanks to me mainly? I think I'm sort of the David Hasselhoff of video games.
Are you saying that we managed to avoid drowning?
Oh yeah, I get it now. 10 out of 10.
I'm good.
Let's wrap it up, put it in a box, and forget this ever happened. Except for Christmas, and then I'll put it under the tree and I'll leave it there. So yeah, if you've listened to this, you weren't meant to listen to it until 25th December 2014. I'm sorry.
Happy Christmas.
I accidentally must have uploaded this.